The presidents of Russia and Venezuela signed a strategic partnership and cooperation agreement, making Venezuela Russia's main partner in the region. Cardinals prepare for the second day of voting of the conclave behind the heavy doors of the Vatican's Sistine Chapel. Argentina's Senate rejected the clean sheet bill, which sought to prohibit persons convicted of crimes against public administration from running for elective office. Hello and welcome to From the South, from the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba. My name is Laura Rodriguez. We begin with the news. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro and Russian President Vladimir Putin held a bilateral meeting in Moscow ahead of Victory Day celebrations. The Latin American leader is on an official visit to celebrate the 80th anniversary of the Soviet Union's win over Nazism in 1945. During the meeting, the two leaders recalled the historical relations between the two countries, especially the friendship that Comandante Chavez had with the Russian government and people. For his part, the Venezuelan president expressed the importance of participating in the Victory Day celebrations and the need to defend the role of the USSR in the defeat of fascism, which has been deliberately buried by the West. In this context, the presidents of Russia and Venezuela signed a strategic partnership and cooperation agreement with which the Eurasian nation grants the highest level of relations to Venezuela and chooses it as the main partner in the region. One of the central axes of the agreements is the creation of an independent financial infrastructure to facilitate trade and investment without depending on Western systems. This mechanism, according to the Venezuelan president, will allow a leap to an integral relationship. The countries signed to cooperate in the energy sector with joint investments in oil, gas, and mining, and also in the technology and defense areas. The Venezuelan head of state highlighted that this collaboration responds to the ideals of Bolivar and Chavez, while his Russian counterpart emphasized that strengthening the strategic association responds to the harmonic interest of both peoples. In this sense, Venezuelan Foreign Minister Ivan Gil, who is in Moscow as part of his country's delegation for the Victory Day, noted the importance of the treaties signed on Tuesday.
Russia and Venezuela, after 25 years of close cooperation, thanks to Commander Chavez and President Putin, are now preparing and have signed a strategic cooperation treaty that will take US to the highest level of cooperation. This is the result of this experience, and allows US today to offer our people the new, the novel, the modern. Venezuela and Russia have managed to consolidate a long-term strategic partnership. We are talking about a 10-year cooperation agreement that will allow US to accelerate the pace.
The Russian president also met with his Cuban counterpart Miguel Díaz-Canel at the Kremlin on Wednesday to address common interest affairs. In this context, the Russian head of state recalled that Cuban volunteers joined the Red Army by that time. Subsequently, the Kremlin leader commended Cuba's contribution to the great victory over fascism 80 years ago. Meanwhile, Cuban president attached importance to rescuing the historical memory in times where the Western elites were attempting to undermine the crucial role of the Soviet Union in the great victory over Nazism in 1945. Díaz-Canel stood out that the Russian people was credited to saving humanity from the Nazis' atrocities. Furthermore, he drew attention to the new manifestations of fascism the world was facing. In addition, Cuban head of state praised their 65 years of bilateral amicable relations.
In the 65 years of friendship, our relations have endured despite the challenges that we have had to face. In these times of relations, we have confronted challenges, we have also had joint programs and projects, and here we are celebrating 65 years of these relations. And history has shown us that unity is based on solidarity and friendship, which allows us to face the current challenges and the challenges of the future. I'm very happy to be here with you.
In this context, Russian President Vladimir Putin also met with the President of the Republic of the Congo, Denis Sassou Nguesso, who arrived in Moscow on Wednesday to take part of the celebrations for the 80th anniversary of the Red Army's victory over Nazism. Opening the meeting with Sassou Nguesso, the Russian head of state affirmed that forming stronger ties with Africa is one of Russia's foreign policy priorities. In this regard, Putin added that a package of joint documents, including an in-depth declaration and a roadmap until 2026, has been adopted on the outcomes of the Russia-Africa summit held in St. Petersburg. In Russia, President Vladimir Putin announced a 3-day ceasefire on the 80th anniversary of the victory in the Great Patriotic War against Nazi Germany. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov assured that this measure will begin on May 8 and will last until May 11. This decision has a humanitarian character and is aimed at allowing the exchange of prisoners and the evacuation of civilians in conflict zones. Peskov warned that Russia will respond forcefully to any provocation or violation of the ceasefire by the Ukrainian armed forces. The Victory Day is one of the most symbolic events in Russia, where there will be a commemorative act, marches, and as main tradition, the military parade where troops and modern war equipment will be exhibited. And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Cardinals tasked with electing a new pope prepared to retreat behind the heavy doors of the Vatican's Sistine Chapel for their second day of voting in the conclave. Late Wednesday, a plume of black smoke rose over the crowds gathered in St. Peter's Square, signaling that the conclave's first ballot had not secured the required two-thirds majority to elect a successor to the late Pope Francis. Tens of thousands of pilgrims and tourists gathered to witness the historic event, but their anticipation turned to disappointment. The Cardinals are tasked with selecting a new leader, but with choosing forward for the 2 millennium-old institution. The elected pontiff will face a monumental task in leading the Catholic Church through these challenging times. Upon the death or resignation of the Pope, the see is declared vacant. During this period, the Cardinals hold general congregations to govern the Catholic Church, attending only to urgent and ordinary matters. They also recognize the conclave, the electoral assembly composed of the Cardinals of the College of Cardinals. Let's see more details in the following story.
The conclave is held in the Sistine Chapel, the spiritual epicenter of Christianity within the Vatican State. This sacred present, together with St. Peter's Basilica, its piazza, and the Santa Marta residence, becomes the focus of global attention during the election of the new Pope. The cardinal electors who will designate the new pontiff leave the Santa Marta residence, their residence in the Vatican for the duration of the papal election process for St. Peter's Basilica at the beginning of the conclave. All cardinals, bishops, priests, deacons, and lay people can attend this voting mass, which is celebrating before the cardinals are locked in the Sistine Chapel and presided over by the deans of the College of Cardinals. After mass or in the afternoon of the same day, the entrance into the conclave takes place. After a prayer in the Pauline Chapel, the cardinals, dressed in choral habits, walks in solemn procession to the famous Vatican Chapel while chanting the invocation to the Holy Spirit, Veni Creator Spiritus. The Sistine Chapel, the most famous room in the Apostolic Palace in the Vatican City, has been a place where all the conclaves has been held. The Sistine Chapel, accompanied by Michelangelo's frescoes on the vaults and the altar wall, which have made it universally famous, dates back to the 16th century. Before exercising the right to vote, the cardinal electors are obligated to take two oaths. A global one, planning to keep silent about what happened inside the Sistine Chapel, and an individual, agreeing to faithfully carry out the official elected. After this, the doors of the Sistine Chapel are closed with the iconic extra arms all out, pronounced by the Cardinal Master of Pontifical Liturgical Celebrations before closing the doors of the Sistine Chapel. The Camerlengo, who is in charge of administrating the church in the Vatican while the cardinals participate in the conclave, and three assistant cardinals watch to the room remain closed and with the help of technical experts inspect that there are no instruments to record or reproduce anything that happens inside the chapel.
Now let's review the places of birth of the cardinals participating in this conclave.
Out of a total 252 cardinals, only 133 can participate in the election of the Pope. Of these, 51 cardinals are of European origin, 37 from the Americas, 23 from Asia, 18 from Africa, and 4 from Oceania. The youngest is the Australian Mikola Bishop, 45 years old, and the oldest is the Spaniard Carlos Osoro Sierra, 79 years old. For the first time, 12 nations with native electors are represented in the Sistine Chapel: Haiti, Cape Verde, Papua New Guinea, Sweden, Luxembourg, and South Sudan. Out of a total
In Palestine on Wednesday, a new Israeli attack killed more than 60 people across the Gaza Strip as the Zionist blockade accelerates starvation on the coastal enclave. Separate attacks on a restaurant and a school in Gaza City killed dozens of people, while a reconnaissance drone strike targeted an area near the Thai and Palmyra restaurants on Al-Wida Street in Gaza City. In addition, 2 missiles were fired at 2 locations at the same time, killing at least 17 people, while another attack killed 13 people at Al-Karama school in the Tufa neighborhood. The non-stop strikes evidence Israel's ongoing genocidal operation in the Strip, which continues targeting civilians in crowded places. The attacks have caused acute food shortages, accelerating the starvation of the Palestinian population. The Director General of Sana International Airport, Khaled Al-Shaif, confirmed the suspension of flights to and from the capital of Yemen, following the attacks perpetrated by the Zionist army. The General Authority of Civil Aviation and Meteorology has strongly condemned this aggression launched by the Air Force of the Israeli enemy, which left at least 3 dead and 38 wounded. The director of the agency, Khaled Al-Shaif, confirmed that this event resulted in the destruction of civil aircraft and airport terminals, as well as the runway and civil facilities. In this regard, this attack is qualified as a flagrant violation of international agreements, in particular the Chicago Convention on International Civil Aviation of 1944. Also in Yemen, the Ansarullah movement stated that the recent ceasefire negotiated with the United States does not limit its operations against Israel. The announcement was made after Israeli planes attacked the Sana'a airport in the capital of the country. Houthi leader Mahdi al-Mashhad said that responses against Israel will continue. Oman's foreign ministry, who is in charge of the negotiations, hailed the breakthrough as a milestone towards de-escalation. The Houthis reaffirmed that their support for Palestine will continue through actions against Israeli-associated interests. Thus, in an unstable context, the Ansarullah movement will continue to attack ships linked to Israel and Western powers as part of its support for the Palestinian cause. We change topic. The number of people killed in India rises to 15 after an attack by the armed forces of Pakistan. According to Indian police, at least 43 people were also injured in the Pakistani attack on a checkpoint in Poonch district. During the night of this Tuesday, May 6th, the Indian Ministry of Defense announced the launching of airstrikes against sites taken by terrorist groups in the border areas with Pakistan. These actions by India were in response to the April 22 attack in Pahalgam in Jammu and Kashmir, which authorities said was carried out by armed groups. On the other hand, the Army of Pakistan confirmed on Wednesday 26 dead and 46 wounded as a result of Indian attacks on civilian installations. In this regard, the National Security Committee declared that Pakistan has the right to respond to attacks by Indian forces, so they were authorized to launch any attack in response, which have included strikes on Indian fighter jets and shootings along the Kashmir border. Pakistan denounced that India carried out attacks in civilian areas under the argument of attacking terrorist camps. We have a second short break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back. Argentina's Senate rejected the clean sheet bill, which sought to prohibit persons convicted of crimes against public administration from running for elective office. The policy is a strategy of the government of Javier Milei to not allow the return of former President Cristina Fernández. With 36 votes in favor and 35 against, the Senate did not reach the necessary majority, which represents a defeat to the persecution against the former President Fernández. The decision may not be dealt with again until 2026. The governor of the province of Buenos Aires, Axel Kicillof, described the bill that the Senate tried to convert into law this afternoon as a very serious form of democracy. The premiere of the Netflix series The Eternaut has led to the reactivation of the search for the grandchildren of Héctor Germán Oesterheld, creator of the original work on which the production was based. Oesterheld's 4 daughters were kidnapped during the last civic-military dictatorship in Argentina between 1976 and 1983, and 2 of them were pregnant. The national network of sons and daughters for identity, injustice against oblivion and silence, HIJOS, started a campaign in search of a survivor, taking advantage of the popularity of the series. The original version of The Eternaut was a graphic novel, first published in the 1950s as a comic book. The graphic novel is remembered for fostering the idea of a collective hero for the first time, and its iconic phrase, "No one is saved alone." In other news, Honduras reinforced surveillance in some sectors of the capital after the U.S. Embassy warned of a possible threat of a mass shooting. The U.S. delegation said it had received information about a possible shooting threat in 3 places in Tegucigalpa, among them a school. President Xiomara Castro criticized it in a speech this Wednesday, the message of the embassy, saying that it generates anxiety, affirming that in Honduras they live in peace. The police, in a communique, assured that they have received multiple warnings about a possible attack, such as the placement of explosive devices with the purpose of provoking chaos and destabilization, and preventive actions were activated. Meanwhile, in the United States, the new Delaney Hall Migrant Detention Center in Newark, New Jersey, has been the target of protests by activists opposed to Donald Trump's immigration policies. Outside the prison, protesters questioned its operation, especially due to the lack of evidence of approval by local authorities. On the other hand, the mayor of Newark, Ras Baraka, expressed his concern by pointing out that the jail is operating at the cost of non-compliance with the necessary regulations and licenses. In this context, the local government has issued 3 citations against the prison administration of the facility, including one that denounces the refusal to allow the mayor to enter. The Chilean government declared on Wednesday an environmental alert in the city of Santiago de Chile due to air pollution. The Chilean authorities issued the alert due to the poor air quality in the capital city and the bad atmospheric conditions. The measure establishes specific prohibitions such as the lighting of wood burning or wood-derived heaters, or the burning of vegetation on agricultural lands. The authorities also suggest reducing the intensity of the physical activities in schools or substituting them with contents that do not require graded oxygen consumption, preferably indoors, in order to protect health. The International Federation of Association Football, FIFA, announced on Wednesday the 8 cities and their respective stadiums that will host the 2027 Women's World Cup in Brazil, the first one to take place in Latin America. São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, Brasilia, Belo Horizonte, Porto Alegre, Salvador, Fortaleza, and Recife are the venues chosen for the tournament, to be played in a country that has never won the Women's World Cup. According to the president of FIFA, Gianni Infantino, the world will experience the energy, color, and human warmth that only Brazil can offer. The World Cup will be played for the second time with 32 teams, a format inaugurated in the 2023 edition that brings the women's tournament on a par with the number historically used in the men's edition. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net, and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Laura Rodriguez. Thank you for watching.